Pollution. The word pollution. Pollution, just in a general term, um, is the dirtying up of a place, right? It's something that adds no value or does harm actually in a conversation, because if it's not going to do harm, it might just be what it is. So how do you learn about pollution? What are the pathways for pollution? Where does it come from? It's such a nebulous term. If a volcano erupts, is that pollution? If a large chemical plant has an accident, is that pollution? If a train derails and spills cargo across the landscape, is that pollution? Some of the pollution is very obvious. You can see it, you can feel it, you can taste it, and you still don't know what to do about it, but let's just talk about pollution itself. So we generally understand what the word pollution means. It's something we credit is not good for the general health, maybe, or an individual's health. If a person's playing with chemicals in their house for some reason and pass away from it, was that pollution? Was it poison? So this is really, really a nebulous word, and it's buried in the knowledge of sciences, because this isn't mentioned in some fundamental books. The nuance of how pollution works is not mentioned in some of these books. It's done in conversations, pollution, but the real world, this simply did not exist back in those days. We are here and now today, and that's a challenge. So let's go, little pollution you see, right? The fire department, when they come to an emergency, puts down oil zorb, or when the wrecker gets there, he starts to take care of it. Or the fire department is there in case there's a fire, because that happens. And then that would be some pollution on top of the tragedy of a fire, right? But here's how pollution really works. Because those are instances, those are accidents, those are spot things. And we do our best to prevent them. So what about this bigger thing of pollution? This insidious thing? This comes down to statistics. You know people that have died from cancers, that have died from diseases, some of them preventable, some of them maybe could have been prolonged, a life could have been prolonged. We know of all kinds of things that happen to people. But when this major pollution event happens, there are whole institutions that study these. They actually study them before. It's part of a life cycle analysis type of event. There are large institutions that say, if this happens, we need 3 more hospitals to be available. That's how big some of these accidents are. If this happens, we are going to need more oncologist training. So education is actually targeted around some of these potential events. But in the boardroom, in the executive room, and remember, you've got people like Mr. Trump running around these events, right? That adds so much value. You've got people that don't understand math and science. Oh, they understand it, but they don't want to believe what it's telling them in these rooms, polluting the conversations. So the bottom line is decisions are made on the number of people that we will let die from an event, the number of people we will let be harmed from letting this chemical into the environment. We go back this carefully and look at it and say, yes, this does have harm. It is in these parts per thousand things. The parts, it's the odds of your neighbor, your friend, or you getting cancer. There are people that study these things, that have done this for a living, that were trained, educated, and put in institutions meant to study and do these things. So, how is industry getting around this? How is chemical companies, commercial nuclear folks getting around this? By marginalizing the sciences, by demeaning the sciences, by putting more value in other institutions that don't add value, by making sure the tax write-offs, the tax deductions, flow money through very poorly chosen channels. This is the reality of planning, of engineering, of politics, of the likely thousands of civilizations that have been lost to wars, to famines, to climate change across time. Because when a human population, when any population overgrows its resources, there is strife. We see this across the animal kingdom, and this is what the human body is doing. Overgrowing our resources, and we're going to get desperate to recover from it. What happens when you begin to learn about the bigger world, when education improves in a society? One of the most notable reactions to actual education and being in a common society is birth rates decrease. And it's not laissez-faire. It's that people realize that there are finite resources on this planet, that having 24 children is only making an army and something to fight over. It's not the grace of anything. So we see these contentions. Not to say a woman doesn't have the right to have whatever family she chooses, but the expectation that that family has everything available to it that the generation before did, when the generation before consumed it. The generation before put nothing into recycling. That's us. That's me. But I've watched over years and seen, hey, we do get better at this. We know how to take care of a waste dump that covers square miles that could, if we hadn't have done something about it, destroyed half of a state's drinking water. Now we're letting that happen anyway because people don't have shouldn't have to. We should trust in institutions. We should trust that our government works the way it's supposed to, because we know faith does not work the way the brochures sell it. It's not as effective. We are better having educated people, trusted folks, and there's ways to find out. It's pretty easy. There's also ways to slip past this stuff. Vetting, job requirements, job skills, education, background, knowledge, they matter in all of these things. If you're a good cash register operator, that's a valued skill. If you're a good person interacting with the public and can de-escalate bad situations and can keep your senses and see 1,000 people a day come by in a store and just smile and say, have a good day, that's as valuable as most anything else I know of. And yet it doesn't have benefits. Your health care is at the whim of your employer and not you. The quality of your health care is on the whim of the competitive bidders for health care that your employer goes to when he's trying to find a plan. So, this pollution conversation, this is about the world, our planet. We are big. We need to grow up and take responsibility for what we've done. Now, that's a bitch to say because I'm saying it professionally. My personal life, not going to go near. My haircut, please bring. This is about how I look. That's exactly why I don't put more into it. And I don't have any money to put any more into it, so wells. My friends, pollution of our environment is the most pressing societal issue that faces the globe. We moved our pollution overseas. China took our pollution load to make the goods and materials for America. It was slow, it was methodical. It began when I was in high school. All the little parts suppliers that made auto parts began to shift and move overseas. This was a very, Kissinger started this event. Kissinger sold China on the wealth that a few can gain by playing the system, by not having clear rules, by putting confusion into, by removing responsibility. That's the biggest thing, this idea of responsibility. And man, it's a long game. And I hope you 30 somethings, you young folks, come out and vote with passion. I hope you force these political parties to use a voice against what we understand the hegemony created, the intentional strife, the divisions being created, and then the egos. Somebody didn't say something right, so we're going to have 3 week rant and try to. And sorry, how you going there? Anyway, pollution is insidious. It is the future of this planet. It is environmental sciences. Look at our college and universities. They placed more importance on business, the religion of business, than they did on the sciences. Sciences are being removed from our school public education. It is methodical. It has been done for years. And as somebody else said, it's almost as if they waited for a generation of us to die off that would speak up about this and try to do better. But we aged. Good luck. Good luck, peoples. I said, I'm on the short side of this. I'm at the point, my retirement plan is prison. So I know I got meals. And some private company can make a fortune off of my sorry ass sitting in prison. It's kind of appealing almost, you know? People write good books in prison. So this was a long one. My coffee got really cold again. There are people that could script this and write books well about these things. This is a 15-minute video already. Few folks will watch because why? But I'm trying to give an understanding of pollution and its injection in our conversations in politics. A slow, methodical trod towards removing good education from all but a few privileged people. One of my strengths was I passed tests very well. It gave me opportunities in education that are unmatched and unrivaled. And yes, that is a brag. That I was given the opportunity based on a whole bunch of tests, check boxes, some interviews. And in going through the courses, 20 to 50% of the classes failed or dropped out. Or they stopped at a point that they could understand, and that was enough. So this isn't easy. There are select few people that know how to bake a good loaf of bread. So keep baking, folks. And hey, Merry Christmas. I understand the White House is planning for Christmas already, so what a world.